everybody. Welcome to Respect, DanceFest Weekly with Micaya and my co-host, Brandy Beasley.
What's up, y'all? Back for another week. Excited. I'm always excited.
Really excited. You know what I have in my hand?
Yes, I do. Tell us about those.
This is my office for the Dance Fest. It's also my dance studio and all kinds of things. But these are right here all the time hanging up by my office. And these are the wristbands that our guests can tell us about later from Ill Abilities. They say no excuses, no limits. And sometimes I just look over at them and go, damn, what am I doing?
You were making excuses.
check in. But anyway, I want to ask you if you know about this kids montage that we're having this year at the Dance Fest.
Okay, so I just uploaded my so awesome. Yeah, so I'm excited about the kids montage. I'm always excited about the kids circle, since we've been having it. It's just like all the energy and the fearlessness that the kids have. It's beautiful. So yes, I just uploaded a video of my youngest dancing in her Catboy costume. And She's dancing and getting it. And I'm like, hey, Lena, how are you dancing? She's like, I'm Catboy. I'm like, oh, excuse me. So excited about that kids montage. I can't wait to see it. Yes.
Mm-hmm. What happened is, I don't know, maybe 4 or so years ago, it's hard for me to remember years. I noticed that especially the Sunday matinee was full of kids in the audience. And I saw in their eyes the inspiration that they got from watching all the dancers in the SF International Hip Hop Dance Fest. And I felt like, not only the kids, but the parents would appreciate the kids like getting off some of that energy before they put them in the car. You know what? Let me go ahead and try to create a kids dance circle that we could have for them. And it transpired to be such a huge success. What happens the last 3 or 4 years is all the children at the end of the Sunday matinee, we invited them up to the stage and they just went to crazy. My first thing was I thought, the kids are going to be shy. I'm going to have to encourage them. Some of them were, but most of them were just going for it. And not only that, but unlike adults, like waiting to go one at a time, they all danced at the same time, which is so beautiful. And so my whole thing, Brandy, has been how can I make the Dance Fest online this year be as similar in feeling as the one at the Palace of Fine Arts. So I was like, we have to somehow incorporate this kids thing. So what people can do if they know or they have a child that loves to dance, just videotape some footage of them dancing. I have a song that we're using for the montage, but if your kid doesn't like that song, videotape them to any song and we'll take the video and put it on our audio and then they'll be part of our show. Isn't that cool?
That's very cool. I can't wait because just the kids are so cute. And like I said, that like you said, most of them are just like, it's time to dance. I'm not thinking about who's watching me or if my moves are tight or whatever. It's just time to dance. Yes.
Dance. Just let them. That's one of my favorite parts. So I'm glad we're still doing that. So tell us about Dance Fest. When is it? Where is it? All that stuff. I forgot.
Dance Fest online, November 21st at noon. Get your tickets, sfhiphopdancefest.com. 22 years. Boom.
All right, let's go because I'm so excited about today. I have so many questions. I'm so curious. So introduce our guest.
Okay, I'm going to keep my bio brief because I feel like we got to save stuff for the interview. So we are so fortunate to have Mr. Luca Lazylegz Patuelli, who is the creator of the world-renowned dance crew, B-boy dance crew, Ill Abilities. So he founded it in 2007. So again, it has some of the world's best differently abled dancers. And in all the fun research that I get to do and watch videos getting ready for our guests, I found out that in the past they were nominated for an Olivier Award, which is like a Tony. So in Britain, you have Olivier, here you have the Tony Award. So that is just like blew my mind, right? And also on his website, so you said no excuses, no limits, right? Another thing he has on there, it says adapt, stay positive, learn to do things your own way. So I'm excited to get all kinds of like energy and mindfulness and just like grounding today. So we're gonna watch a clip of Ill Abilities at DanceFest.
My name is Luca Patuelli, and I'm from Montreal, Canada. I was born with a rare joint deficiency that affects the muscular growth in my legs. Ignoring my physical condition, I found sanctuary on a skateboard. As I rolled towards my dream, my limitations caught up to me. One of 16 major surgeries inhibited my skate career. So what did I do? I found a break.
Welcome, Luca.
Cool. What's up, Micaya? What's up, Brandy? How are y'all doing?
Oh, good.
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and it's so good to see you again.
Welcome.
Yeah. So, wow. I mean, like, there's so many things that we want to know. We look at your bio. Obviously, I've met you a couple of times. You've been in the Dance Fest. But there's so much more to it. I want to start with the obvious. Can you tell us about your condition and how it's affected you in your life?
Yeah. I was born with a condition called arthrogryposis. It's a neuromuscular disorder that affects the bones and the joints in your body. What makes this condition so rare is that anyone that's affected with arthrogryposis, it can affect them in any part of their body. But for me, it primarily affected me in my legs and a little bit in my shoulders. But growing up, I've always used crutches to help me get around. And I've always been a very active kid. So any activity I ever saw my friends do, I'd always try to participate with them and just try to find a way to do it my own way. And when I was 15 years old, I discovered breaking, and I haven't stopped since.
Ooh, so how did you discover breaking?
I used to skateboard. So before breaking, I was really into skateboarding, and I discovered how to skate on my knees. So I'd have the back of the board where my knees are, and I'd have my hand on the front of the board, and I was paddling with my other hand. And I would grab the side of the board, and I would like do a handstand and lift the board up. And I was doing like my version of ollies. I was able to like grind little curbs and rails, like short rails. I was jumping off gaps and like up to 3 to 4 stairs. I could like fly off of 3, 4 stairs. And in my neighborhood, I grew up in Bethesda, Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C. And so in my neighborhood, like all my friends, all my neighbors, they were either skating or rollerblading. So we had like our little like skate rollerblade crew, and we were going around Bethesda into Washington, D.C. And we started becoming kind of like a little skate crew. And then after having a surgery on my knees to help correct the positioning of my knees. So if we pretend that my arm is my leg used to always be stiff at a 90-degree angle. That's why I was always like on my knees, because I couldn't extend my leg more than 90 degrees. And so at 15 years old, I had a surgery to correct the angle where they cut my femur in half and they changed the angle on my bone. And that gave me an opportunity to extend my leg at 180 degrees, like most of the average people. And after the surgery, I couldn't go back on my skateboard. because the fact that they changed the angle on my knees, my feet were dragging against the asphalt, the scars just on my knees. So the vibration of the skateboard started opening up my scar. And I was like, I was hungry. I was looking for something to do. And some of my friends who were skating had just gotten into breaking. And they were the ones that introduced me to this. And I was like, I really had no clue what breaking was. I had never seen it before this. I didn't even know, to be honest, that breaking was connected to dance and to hip hop. Like when it was like shown to me. At first, it was shown to me as just like a guy doing a backspin, people spinning on their heads, and just like, and after a while, I was like getting attracted to the movement, and my friends took me to a competition, and that's where I really discovered what hip hop and breaking was really all about. And I got to see a cypher. And so, Micaya, in your intro, you were talking about just the kids fest, where all the kids in the beginning are just running around and just having fun. So like that energy, I felt that in my first like competition that I ever went to. And I actually, like, I ripped my leg braces off and I crawled into the middle of the cypher and I started doing like these push-ups. And so in the gymnastics world, they're called planche push-ups. It's basically when your legs are like floating in the air and you're going up and down. And so I did that, and the audience, all the B-boys and B-girls were like going, woo, because back in 2002, that movement wasn't something that was seen too often. And so this one kid, they're like, who is this guy? And that's really when I started getting myself a little bit more known in the Washington, D.C. area, and started going to different practices and just meeting a bunch of different dancers and just getting myself situated within the breaking world.
Whoa. It's like, it seems like even before that, with the skating and everything you did, you already just didn't put limitations on yourself, and you were kind of a daredevil and just, wanted to do whatever you wanted to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, any activity that I saw my friends do, I'd always participate with them. In high school, I used to be part of the competitive swimming and diving team. For diving, I would just crawl up to the edge of the diving board and I would do like a handstand and flip off the diving board. So I was repeating the same dives that my friends were doing standing up, but I was doing them on my hands. Skateboarding, I would play baseball, soccer, football, but I was just doing everything my own way. And I have to say that I was fortunate to have a really strong group of friends to, I guess, push and encourage me to stay active. And I don't think my friends ever saw my disability as a limitation. It was always like, hey, we want to go do this. Luca, you coming? And I was like, yeah, cool. They're like, all right, cool. It was never like, oh, we can't do this because Luca's like, we have to find a way to do this for Luca. It was more like, let's just figure it out, And that was something that I think helped me become who I am today. And the no excuses, no limits message, I think, really transcends to my childhood. It just really, anything I ever wanted to do was just, let's just figure it out. Even at a young age, my parents, they taught me how to ski, but ski on my butt. So like before I discovered like adaptive skiing with outriggers and mono skis, which I do right now. But as a kid, I had enough strength to be able to sit on the back of my skis. And I was so small that it kind of just worked, that I created like my own ski style. And so even my parents, like, they were just like, they wanted to go skiing, so they would just throw me on the ski hill. If they wanted to go swimming, they would just throw me in the pool and I'd have to figure it out, And I mean it in the most positive way. Like, but like anything that I wanted to do, even skateboarding, when I saw the first time I saw like a group of kids on skateboards and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. I was like, and I told my parents for my birthday, I was like, I want a skateboard, and said they got me a skateboard. It was never like, how is he going to do it? Or you can't because you're going to hurt yourself. It was always like, okay, just figure it out. So
Your life.
Right. And I mean, the whole time you're talking, I'm thinking how, I mean, the no excuses, no limits. That was your parents, like, you know, their philosophy, and your friends and the community. It was just like, well, you know, we can do it. We can figure it out. And I think, you know, being a parent, it can be easy to like, oh, you know, you want your kids to be safe, and oh, don't do that. And, you know, so just to have the courage, you know, and the bravery to just be like, let's figure it out. Right. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and that makes me think of just the world, how it's not about like, oh, well, let's make it to where we are making things where everybody can join in, right? It doesn't matter. It's not just for this group of people or this group of people, or it's just for differently abled people. No, it's for everybody. Let's make it accessible for everybody, no matter what, which means if another person comes in who is, you know, needs it to be a different way, well, let's figure out how to make it that way, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And that's, I was going to say, just being a parent, you know, like I have two daughters. I have a 5-year-old daughter and a 6-month-old. And my 6-month-old, Luna, she actually has the same condition as me. And so, like, this idea, you know, like, so just in these last 6 months, she's had 3 hospitalizations and 2 surgeries. And I can say, like, as a parent, you have that protective nature of like, I don't know what to do. And like, right now, like, I'm trying to picture myself, what's it going to be like in 4, 5, 6, 7 years when she wants to start becoming like active. Am I going to be like my parents and just be like, cool, like, and just like go, or am I going to be like overprotective, you know? And I think right now, the way we are with Aura, our 5-year-old daughter, we really let her like experiment things and just kind of like go for it, you know? Like, she wanted to do monkey bars, and like, we weren't there like holding her doing the monkey bars, you know? We're like, okay, well, we'll be behind you in case you fall, but you also have to learn how to fall, you know? So we're trying to find that balance of not being hover parents, but yet also protecting. So I can relate to you on that end of things.
That's hard work. So I am just really loving hearing, you know, the story of you and, you know, through activity, skateboarding, dance. And so tell us, keep the story going. Tell us about the formation of Ill Abilities.
Yeah. So I started when I was dancing in Washington, D.C. I was dancing for about like 2 years. So from 15 years old to 17 years old. And I entered in my first dance competition when I was 17 years old. And it was an event called Breakers Delight in Silver Spring, Maryland. And Cujo, who's a member of Ill Abilities, was a judge at this competition. And I didn't know who Cujo was. I had just heard of who he was. And people were like, oh, Lazy, when Cujo comes, you have to battle him. And I'm like, why? They're like, he's got the same moves you do. Like, because I was doing these planches and I was spinning on my hands and I was very strong. And Cujo is known, and he actually influenced a lot of the movements that I do and other b-boys do many years before I was doing them. And like, they're like, yo, you have to have an exchange with them. You have to do this. And so, but like I said, my intro into breaking, like, I really didn't know much about the scene. I didn't know much about hip hop. So Cujo was new to me, but I just was like, cool, I want to meet this guy. I want to battle him, you know, as a 17-year-old eager kid and everything. And I see him and we're in a cypher together, and I throw down and I like go in. And like the cypher continues, and I just go in and introduce myself to him. I'm like, hey, I was like, you want to battle? You know, like not knowing that usually, you know, like, you're supposed to dance in front of the dancer and like, you know, like show him off and stuff. But I was more like, hey, like very, very eager. And he looks at me. He's like, nah, man. He's like, I got a broken wrist, but I would love to exchange with you in the future, you know? And then later that day, the battles were happening, and I was just warming up in the ciphers, and I actually broke my leg before actually competing, before going into the battle. I had created a move where I was spinning on one hand, and I had both my legs like floating in between one hand, and I was spinning like this. And I guess I span too fast, and my legs dropped, and my leg caught and I continued spinning, but my leg went upside down. And so I ended up having a spiral fracture in my femur. The ambulance came, like they had to shut down like half of the gym to make sure that I could get out and everything. And it was kind of embarrassing, but I ended up having an immediate surgery where I wake up in a full body cast because of the way the fracture was and my bones are. I need to be in a full body cast for 2.5 months. When that happened, my parents were like so pissed, and they didn't want to hear anything about breaking or hip hop or anything. They're like, you're going to be a good boy and you're going to go to university and you're going to study, and like, that's it, that's out. And then that summer I ended up moving to Montreal. And when I moved to Montreal, I didn't have the friends or the support group that I had back home in Washington. So I really wanted to recreate what I had back home. So I went to a breaking competition, and I went and I threw down, and that was my story, my history in Montreal, because I started there, and that's where I guess I'd say I developed my style, and I started learning more about breaking, learning more about hip hop, and started practicing and really taking it more seriously, and started competing and joined a crew in Montreal. We were called Illmatic Styles, and then we fused with another crew called Ill Mask. And so Illmatic Styles, Ill Mask it's part of like my foundation. So that ill has to do with ill abilities also, because in 2006, I got flown to France to battle a one-legged dancer named Oot. And Oot is currently part of the Cirque du Soleil Michael Jackson 1 show. And at the time, I was getting myself known in the breaking scene. I was competing like around the b-boy world. There was a website called bboyworld.com. Like my video started blowing up, and so everyone knew me as like the crutch dancer. And then this guy named Oot comes out. I had no clue who he was, and they fly me to France to battle him, and he smoked me. It was a really good exchange, but I will admit that if it was to be a judge battle, he would have probably won. And it was in that moment that I got inspired, because I was like, whoa, I was like, there's some amazing dancers who have different disabilities, and I want to create a crew, and I want to call us Ill Abilities, because I wanted to be part of the family of my hometown crews. And so Oot was always kind of on my list as a dancer, but because I gotten beat by him, my ego wouldn't allow me to have him be part of the crew. But I always remembered Cujo being supportive of me, because after I broke my leg, he stayed in touch with me and he checked in to make sure that I was like doing okay. And when he found out I was moving to Montreal, he was actually in Montreal working with Cirque du Soleil on like random projects. So we had spent a lot of time between 2002 and 2006 just randomly like bumping into each other at either in Montreal or in LA at different events. And so we became really close. And it was in that moment that I discovered that he was deaf. And so Cujo is 100% deaf in 1 year, and he's about 75% deaf in the other year. And he uses a hearing aid in that 1 year. So if you talk to him, he can hear you and understand you, but you have to be close enough and you have to speak clearly enough. And he also reads your lips at the same time to make sure that he fully understands what you're saying. But if you turn your direction or anything like that, he won't be able to understand or hear you. So for him dancing, he created his own dance style, just watching audiences clapping their hands to the beat or bobbing their head to the beat. And through that, he ended up creating this really unique style, this strength style that a lot of dancers are influenced by. And so knowing Cujo's story and knowing that he was like well-spoken, because I was getting involved in motivational speaking at the same time that I wanted to create Ill Abilities, I was like, well, what if we create this like super crew, but we go to schools and we talk to kids and we share our stories? So I called Cujo. And at the same time, in 2006, there was another video of a guy named Chicho. And Chicho's a dancer from Chile in South America. And Chicho came out with this video. He's born with a malformation in his legs. His feet come up to his knees. He's very short, but his arms are they're like tree trunks, and he does everything on his arms. And I ended up commenting on his video, be like, "Yo, you're awesome. I'd love to cipher you with one day." And he responded immediately and was talking about how like he was always influenced by watching my videos, and he also was talking to Cujo. And I was like, "Cool." I was like, "What if with the three of us start a crew together?" And then at the same time, all of this was kind of happening at the same time. I ended up backtrack 2004. I'm sorry, backtrack 2004. I went to B-Boy Summit and I met Tommy Guns. And I know from the Bay Area, you all know Tommy Guns. And Tommy, I had only found out about this like a little bit later. Tommy had just lost his leg to cancer like 2 weeks before B-Boy Summit. And I'm at this event and I see a guy on crutches with one leg, and I'm on the other side of the cypher with crutches. And like initially we're like, you know, like that idea of like the old Western, like wah, 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 with like the so like both Tommy and I were like looking at each other like, all right, let's go, you know, but it was a friendly exchange. And like we ended up like just spending the whole day after that, and we were just having fun, sharing moves and just kind of like going around and like just exchanging. And so I had kept in touch with Tommy at the same time that I was talking to Cujo and Chicho. And so I called Tommy. I was like, "Yo, I'm going to start this crew called Ill Abilities. It's going to be me, you, Chicho, and Cujo." I was like, "Are you down?" And he's like, "Yeah, down. Awesome. Yeah." And the first like official like time that any of us got together in Toronto of 2007, Tommy and I got flown out to battle together. And we weren't officially like Ill Abilities, but it was kind of like the beginning of that. And then later that summer, Tommy, Cujo, and I performed at the Red Bull BC One in Los Angeles. And that was our official like commercial debut. And then in 2008, I brought Tommy, Cujo, and Chicho to Montreal. And it was Chicho's first time ever leaving the country of Chile. And he came to Montreal and he lived at my house for 3 months. And my parents, like I was still living at my parents' house. My parents didn't know any of this. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm throwing this event and I've got a B-boy from Chile staying here." And my parents thought it was just the weekend. I was like, after the weekend happens, like, "Oh yeah, by the way, he's leaving in September." So we threw this event called No Limits. And to go with the whole no excuses, no limits motto, I always grew up with that mentality, but the actual motto was created at that event. Because the event itself was called No Limits. And in the event, each dancer shared their story. And at the end of my story, I just mentioned that growing up, my father always taught me to live life with no excuses. And it was when I finished that term, the audience actually shouted out, "No limits." And so it was that event that we created No Excuses, No Limits. And so to finish off with the Ill Ability story, sorry, there's like so much, it's like all this like is coming back, that in 2000, from 2007 to 2011, this crew, Ill Abilities, was like this idea, and it was something that I really wanted to form, but I was still studying in university, and it wasn't something that I was putting like all my energy into it. So we were meeting when we could, and we actually, I think, ended up doing the San Francisco Hip Hop Dance Festival. Was it 2009?
Twice.
Yeah, we did 2009 and 2011, I think. So 2009, like at that time, we were still very inexperienced, like working together as a crew. You know, we really only met, I think, from 2007 to 2009, we probably met like 4, maybe 5 times together. So creating the show was a full new experience for us. Performing at that stage, on that type of stage, was like brand new to us. Understanding what hip hop theater, hip hop dance theater was all new to us. And so right now, like you're bringing back so many memories. And I just remember like crashing on Tommy's like floor, and we were building the show in his apartment and all of this stuff. And then after it was 2009, 2010, we had like some random like performances and experiences. And in 2010, I graduated and I decided, I was like, you know what, I'm going to put my full energy into Ill Abilities. And we ended up recruiting Redo, the dancer from the Netherlands. And I actually didn't get a chance to meet Redo when we recruited him. We were invited to go to an event in Sweden, and I had a family emergency. And so Cujo and Tommy flew to Sweden without me. And we were planning on doing the show that we had performed in 2009 at San Francisco Hip Hop Dance Festival. And Cujo and Tommy met Redo in Sweden, and they like vibed well. And the night before the performance, they're like, yo, Lazy's not here. Do you want to take his part? and he was like, yeah, that would be awesome. So they recorded his voice in the bathroom of the hotel, and they inserted it into like where I would have been, and he performed. And for him too, it was like his first, not, I wouldn't say it was first, but in the beginnings of when he first started his career. And like Cujo and Tommy came back and they're like, yo, this guy Redo's legit. He's really dope. And so I called him right away. I was like, welcome to the crew. I sent him a t-shirt with his name on it. And in 2011, I asked the whole crew, Tommy, Cujo, Chicho, and Redo, I said, give me 1 month of your time and let's try to figure something out. And it was May of 2011. I had contacted every single school that ever hired me as a motivational speaker. And I said, hey guys, I have this crew, Ill Abilities. I've spoken to you about them. I've showed you their videos. I was like, they're going to be in Montreal. Can you book us in this month here? Because I had organized all of this like 2 months before they actually came. And so I wasn't able to get any sponsorship or government funding or anything like that. I was just like, cool, let's just try to make it happen. And in 30 days, we booked 28 motivational entertainment schools in 4 different cities. And then I rented a big loft in Montreal. And in that loft, we made it into like a dance studio. We were sleeping on the floor, but then like practicing. And so in the mornings, we perform at the schools. And then in the evenings, we were just vibing and trying to create a show. And we ended up creating a 20-minute theatrical dance piece, which was a continuation of the piece that we created at San Francisco Hip Hop Dance Festival in 2009. And once we created that show, Breaking Convention in the UK got wind of it and they got to see it. And they're like, we want to book you. So in 2012, Breaking Convention booked us and they brought us on half of their tour. And so we did like half a tour across the UK. And we created such a strong vibe and became like a family with John Z and the rest of the Breaking Convention family. And so that they brought us back 3 years in a row. So we did 2012, 2013, and 2014. And it was in 2013 when we got nominated for the Olivier Award. And the Olivier Award was crazy because we got invited and I really had no clue what it was or understand how big and monumental it was. And so like Redo and I went to represent the crew and we're dressed up, you know, and like, again, I was kind of like, I don't think I was dressed for the occasion, like compared to everyone else. And we're starting to walk down the red carpet and people like it's kind of silent. And then we just start hearing this roar and we're like, whoa, people know who we are. Like we started feeling really cool. And then we looked behind us and it was Daniel Radcliffe, the character from Harry Potter. We're like, oh, okay, it makes sense. So that was a really, really cool experience. We didn't win, but just to be nominated and to be in that room with so much talent and so much it was an incredible experience. So it's something that we take a lot of pride in as a crew. From that moment, 2013 to 2017, the crew, we were going in waves like up and down and just kind of like we're trying to figure out what we wanted to do. We were trying to create like new theater shows, trying to like expand the show that we already had. things were working, things weren't working. It was a lot of like trial and error. And myself, from 2014 to 2017, I actually ended up putting less energy into the crew. I was developing an inclusive urban dance program here in Montreal called Projet Rad, where we were modifying dance studios to make them accessible, to make sure that people with disabilities could enter into a dance studio. And then we were training the dance professionals to understand how to work with people with disabilities. And we had it was a really successful program. We had almost 200 students. We were running our program out of 5 different dance studios in the province of Quebec. And it was like really, really like something that took up a lot of my time and energy. And it became like my new passion. But that project actually burnt me out. And trying to do that project, manage ill abilities, and also welcome our first daughter, Aura, all at the same time, while on top of trying to maintain my own career as Lazylegz, everything just kind of went, and I ended up having a really bad burnout. So from 2014 to 2017, I ended up like going into a depression, and I started putting less energy into ill abilities, and I indirectly I quit my own crew. Like I sat the guys down after our last tour in 2014 with Breaking Convention. I sat the guys down and said, hey, I don't think I'm up to taking the role as manager. Moving forward, whenever a contract comes in, I'll just forward it. Whoever wants to take it, you guys can deal with it however you want. And so for like 3 years, we felt like we were going up, you know, with the Olivier Awards. We were starting to tour. And then from 2014 to 2017, we started noticing there was like a lot of like decline. And Redo was like hungry for the like ill abilities, and like he recognized like the full potential that our crew has. And he flew himself out from Holland to Montreal, and he spent 2 weeks with me, and he helped me get out of my depression. And he was like, yo, I was like, let's go to Boston. So we went to Boston. We did a 2-on-2 battle. And we went unannounced. We weren't going to promote ill abilities. We weren't promoting ourselves. We were just, let's just battle and let's go back to the roots of why we love this dance. And that like really sparked that flame back into me. And it reminded me that it's okay to have fun with what I'm doing. It doesn't need to be a business. It doesn't need to be structured, and to allow like the freedom to be able to dance, and that I don't need to dance for other people. Because while I was running the dance program, I felt all this pressure with my students that I always had to dance for them, to try to push them, to get them to dance. And I was doing all of this work that I almost lost interest in dance. And so when Redo came, I really rediscovered that passion and that spark for dance. And around that same time, there was 3 members that are currently in the crew, Crops, Samuka, and Perninia. They were all starting to like come out, like their videos were starting to blow up. And Redo's like, yo, I think we need new energy in the crew. It's like, he was like, let's recruit these guys. Let's make Ill Abilities 2.0, you know? And so like after that trip, I got like super motivated. I called all the guys and I was like, yo, I think I'm going to take back control of the crew, and I want to start like managing and leading the crew again. And from 2017 to now, obviously because of COVID, things have changed. But I'd say from 2017 to March 2020, our crew, Ill Abilities, we've toured in over 23 countries. We built a brand new stage show, a full hour-long show called Disconnect. And we've competed. We actually decided that we were no longer going to be just this motivational, inspirational dance crew. We're going to go back to our roots and start breaking again. So we actually started competing. We went to Italy for the Hip Hop Connection event. We made it all the way to the finals. We went to Singapore for the Radical Force anniversary. We made it in top 4 out of 200 crews. And I think that helped spark that motivation that I had back in the day to be like, you know what, like there was a point in my career as Lazylegz. My goal was to be the best dancer in the world. It wasn't to be a dancer with a disability that just gets himself known and travels around. It's like, I want to be the best dancer that happens to have a disability. And there's that difference. And so everyone in the crew made that commitment. And so we push ourselves and we work to make sure that we can improve and that we can continue battle and stay true to hip hop. But at the same time, we can still share our message and we can still be a positive group of people that people can look towards and as role models for younger generations of kids with ill abilities or even parents or just in general. I think what makes our crew so unique is that every member of the crew has their own story and their own upbringing that someone in the audience will be able to relate to that one person. And you don't have to have a disability to be able to connect with the no excuses, no limits message.
No, not at all. You just have to be a human being.
Yeah. And so, there's one thing I want to mention, like that I think is important. Tommy is no longer in ill abilities. He's part of our family, and he's decided to take a step back to focus on his family and his own personal career. But we still keep in touch with him, and he's still someone that inspires every single one of us in the crew, and is definitely still my brother. So
That's how it is. People stay family. Brandy was in my dance company, but we're still like sisters, and that's how bonds are in dance.
Yeah.
Right. We're still hella tight.
Yeah.
Well, oh my God, I loved everything you said. I learned so much. I wanted to know how all the little things hook together because I knew you had this group of people from so many parts of the world. How did you meet them? How did you connect? I mean, I really appreciate the story. I really appreciate all that history. This podcast is called Respect. And I feel like everything you said just drips, just respect. It's like all about how you've respected yourself, other people that are differently abled, how to make everything accessible, how to inspire all of us that of our own feeling that we have limitations. Do you feel like as a dancer that you have been more or less disrespected because of your condition?
That's a good question. I would say that the beauty about hip hop is that being unique is your strength. But I do think that in hip hop, you have to prove yourself. So people are going to know if you're faking it or not, right? So you have to stay true to who you are. And I think that the respect that I've gotten in hip hop and in breaking and just in general, just in day-to-day society, is because I've always worked hard to be able to stay true to who I was and also kind of prove myself, like if I have to battle like on the spot, like I'll do it. I'm not going to be like, sorry, I can't, you know what I mean? It's not on my mandate. You know what I mean? Like, it's more like, if something has to happen now on the spot, we'll find a way to make it work. And it's always been that philosophy or mentality that I've had. In terms of like, to go back to your question, I'd say 90%, 99% of the people have always shown me respect. There has been that like 1 or 2% of haters, especially I'd say a lot of it with online, like people will watch videos and they'll be like, oh, he's faking it. His legs are moving. He's not really disabled. He's not this, he's not that. Or, oh, because he's disabled, it's so much easier for him to do this. Or he's only getting the love because he has a disability. There was a guy in Montreal, and I'm not going to name his name, but if he listens, he knows. Like he, in the middle of like one of my rounds, there was a moment where like the music just kind of like dropped and you could hear him talking and he's like, Lazy, you're not a B-boy. And so the whole audience heard him at the same time. And he got a lot of crap from the community in Montreal. But he came up to me and tried to explain to me why he felt that I wasn't a b-boy, because I wasn't doing the foundational steps, that I wasn't dancing the way breaking should be in his eyes. And so I took what he said and I used that as fuel, and I used it as like, okay, well, I'll show you who I am. I'll show you that I'm a b-boy. And like 1 or 2 years later, we were at an event and it was literally on the concrete. And I was like, yo, you want to go? Let's go. And so we went like 8 rounds, and whether he won or I won, it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, it was more about like, you know what, like, I'm going to prove to you who I am, because like, I do understand this dance and I respect this dance. And just because I might not physically be able to do the same moves that you do does not make me any less of a b-boy than you are. And so that was kind of my whole reason why I wanted to kind of prove myself to him.
I love it.
Mhm.
Brandy and I yesterday were talking about ill abilities at SF International Hip Hop Dance Fest, how impactful it was. I'm sure everywhere you go, you hear this, but for us, it's so personal. And for me, because I wander through the audience after, during intermission and ask people, or they come up to me and give me their testimonies. So our testimonies were this. So many people, not just that day, but years and years and years afterwards, told me how your performances changed their mindset, change their mind, change the way they think about things that they do, decisions they make. And, that is impactful. That's why your last piece we are going to be showing at the Dance Fest this year, because, it's one of our all-time favorite pieces. And the other thing, I just pulled this down because I forgot about this, Brandy. This is some magazine. I don't even know what this magazine is, but boom.
That's dope. That's amazing.
So this was talking about the Dance Fest 14-year love affair with dance, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you up here. Great pictures. Yeah, it's beautiful. I forgot about that. Brandy, do you remember when they were at Dance Fest?
Oh, yes. It's so funny. When I think about Dance Fest and the different companies and crews that come to perform, I find that so for me, ill abilities, I must have been on in the audience on this side of the stage, because that's where my memory is taking me. And I think people say oh, I'm so inspired, but I'm like, it's deeper than that. It's like, you are taking inventory of well, damn, what excuses am I making? What boundaries am I building for myself? Right? I may feel oh, there's all these boundaries and I'm trying to be who I am but it's no. The biggest ones are really the ones that we make for ourselves. So just that, yes, having you at Dance Fest and having that moment. And I think at Dance Fest, there are different moments like that, right? Where whether it's all this love you're getting, or the beginning of maybe this journey because you saw a dance crew ill ability. So I would love to hear, Luca, you talk about some of your experiences at Dance Fest. For dancers, there's on the stage, backstage, VIP party. So tell us about that.
I mean, like I said, when I was sharing the creation of ill abilities, I actually we have to credit you guys, because in 2009 we didn't have a theater show, and I show up in San Francisco, Cujo shows up a day or 2 days before the show. We're like, what are we gonna do? We're like, oh, you know what I mean? So and the show that won the Olivier Award was it started with you, with the show that we did in 2009, and then it kind of just snowballed, and it just got better and better and better. And we got more time to work on it because we understood how we worked together. And so that helped, and within that time. But Dance Fest is I love it. You know what I mean? I think it's fun because it's not just the aspect of performing on such a beautiful stage, but I'd say it's more about the after effect. You know what I mean? I think if I remember correctly, I can't remember which year it was 2009 or 2011. but there was a crew from Sweden or Norway that came.
Nobulous?
Austria.
Awesome, maybe, I don't know. Well,
What was their piece like? What do you remember from their piece?
You know what? Actually, I don't remember their piece. I remember just vibing and partying with them and like just having fun. But then like 5 years later, we were in Norway or Sweden. That's the thing. It was a company in Sweden or Norway. I can't remember. And like these people come up to us and they're like, yo, do you remember us from San Francisco Hip Hop Dance Festival? We're like, oh, what's up? And we just like continued partying again, you know? And I think that like San Francisco Hip Hop Dance Festival it's this like network of dancers, and it really like reunites people. And what I really appreciated too was that it was all different skill levels. So you had dancers that were like beginner, intermediate, but they were on stage with big professional dance companies. And at the end of the day, people were celebrating all together just this love for dance, you know? And that's what dance is really all about. It's just a celebration of life, you know? And I feel that like at your event, you really feel that and just the love and, you know, I just remember we had so much fun. And I think it was in 2011 when we showed up with the whole crew. So Redo and Chicho were there too. And we were just like, so like amazed to be together as like a full crew at that time. And to bring it back to like from 2 years earlier to be like, this is the product of what started off at.
Yeah, that piece really fully actualized. And I think that's where people were asking me to just put tissues. And not being funny, but like real, authentic connection, personal human tears of just having those moments of realization and seeing. Here's the other thing is that Ill Abilities is one of the most superb dance companies on the planet. And it has nothing to do with the fact that they're differently abled or disabled. They're just dope. And pisses people off maybe is just like, dang, not only this, but look how good they are. And so it transforms everyone's mindset to just really thinking. I love that you brought up the camaraderie of dancers backstage that probably or may not have ever met until they've come there. And in my opinion, you know, we've had a lot of time to do our inventory in life, even before pandemic, because I'm of a certain age, of what's important to you. And for me, I like to create, but I also like bringing people together. It makes me happy. So that makes me happy that you met with people and then somewhere else you saw them again and that you created with them or connected with them. Oh, this has been the best ever. I am so overjoyed. You made my day. You're a magical human being.
Thank you.
Bless the world for you and everything that you do. Appreciate you. Brandy, what's happening?
Girl, I'm over here with like a little bit of a runny nose because you can't tell, but I've like got misty eyes a couple of times. Just in talking about like how your uniqueness is your power in hip hop. That's why I love hip hop is just love at the end of the day. It's just like, come on over and dance with us. And that's what DanceFest is too, right? Every year you're like, oh, I'm going to see my family. Even people who you haven't met before will become your family when you are at DanceFest. So beautiful. Like today is one of my busiest days, but I'm ready for it because I'm full of love right now.
Everybody, get your damn ticket. Really, get your tickets. SF International Hip Hop Dance Fest is happening online. We're going to be playing some past favorite performances, including No Excuses, No Limits. And we've got 4 live Bay Area soloists that are performing, which we're going to tell you about next time. We have a collaboration piece called Isolation and Humanity. We have VIPs that are going to be just come in and just talk a little bit. We have award ceremonies. It's a lot of great things. So get your tickets. If you don't have any money, you can pay as little as $1. And if you do have money, please go ahead and support the SF International Fest. Thank you, everybody. We're going to wrap this up. Thanks so much, Luca. Thank you, Brandy. Much love.
Thank you so much, Brandy. Thank you, Micaya. Much love, and much love to the Bay Area. One of my favorite cities, San Francisco. You guys are the best.